The observation deck of the Galactic Council's primary station buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 12 different species gathered around the massive viewing screen. Commander Zextai of the Valkyrian Republic adjusted his breathing apparatus, the blue-tinted gas helping to calm his racing hearts. Beside him, Ambassador Krillnex from the hegemony clicked her mandibles in what her species considered deep thought. "The readings are confirmed," announced Dr. Yoth, the station's chief xenobiologist, his tentacled form swaying as he manipulated the holographic displays. "The human vessel has indeed breached our outer detection grid. Estimated arrival in 72 standard hours." A collective shudder ran through the assembled delegates. For the past 3 centuries, the Galactic Council had maintained strict protocols regarding species integration. No civilization had ever been granted membership without first proving their worth through the trial of ascension, a series of technological, diplomatic, and strategic challenges that had claimed the hopes of countless species. The humans, however, had done something unprecedented. They had ignored the trial entirely. "Remind me again how they managed this impossibility," Zextai said, his voice carrying the weight of disbelief that had plagued him for weeks since the first reports arrived. Dr. Yatha's display shifted, showing a detailed breakdown of human technological achievements. "According to our intelligence networks, the humans achieved faster-than-light travel through a method our best theorists deemed mathematically impossible. They call it fold space technology." "Fold space," repeated Ambassador Krillnex, her translation device struggling with the concept. "Our scientists spent millennia perfecting hyperspace corridors and quantum tunneling. How do they simply fold space?" "That's not the most disturbing part," Dr. Yoth continued, his tentacles trembling slightly. "Their energy requirements for this technology appear to be a fraction of what our calculations suggested would be necessary. They're either using an energy source we don't understand, or they've discovered principles of physics that have eluded our greatest minds." The viewing screen shifted to display intercepted human communications. The audio crackled as the translation matrix worked to convert the alien sounds into something the council members could understand. "Houston, this is Captain Saracen aboard the UES Prometheus. We're beginning our final approach to the coordinates provided by the Galactic Council's automated beacon. Expected arrival in 70 hours, 14 minutes. Copy that, Prometheus. Remember, you're representing all of humanity out there. Make us proud." "Will do, Houston. These aliens are about to learn what human determination looks like." The communication ended, leaving the observation deck in tense silence. Commander Zextai found himself both impressed and terrified by the casual confidence in the human captain's voice. In his 3 decades of service, he had witnessed first contact with 17 different species. None had ever approached the council with such audacity. "Sir," interrupted Lieutenant Cass, a young Valkyrian officer whose purple skin had paled considerably. "We're receiving additional intelligence reports from our deep space monitoring stations." "What now?" Zextai asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. "The human vessel isn't alone. Our sensors detect what appears to be a small fleet shadowing their primary ship at extreme range. Conservative estimates suggest at least 40 additional vessels." The observation deck erupted in alarm chatter across multiple languages and communication methods. Ambassador Krillnex's mandibles clacked so rapidly they created a sound like rain on metal. 40 ships? Dr. Yatha's tentacles went rigid with shock. "That's not a diplomatic mission, that's an invasion force." "Not necessarily," Commander Zextai said slowly, though his own confidence was wavering. "It could be a precautionary measure. Humans might simply be more cautious than other species." "Cautious?" Ambassador Krillnex's laugh came out as a chittering sound. "Zextai, they bypassed every protocol we've established for peaceful first contact. They ignored our trial of ascension. They developed impossible technology. And now they're approaching our capital station with enough firepower to level a small planet. If this is caution, I'd hate to see human aggression." Dr. Yoth manipulated his displays again, bringing up detailed scans of the human lead vessel. "The ship's design is unlike anything in our databases. It appears to be constructed using materials we've never encountered. The hull composition defies our understanding of metallurgy and engineering. How big is it? Asked Representative Mala, the crystalline delegate from the Silicon Consortium, her voice resonating like wind chimes. Approximately 1,200 meters in length, 400 meters at its widest point. But that's not what concerns me most. Dr. Yoth highlighted specific sections of the vessel. Look at these energy signatures. The humans appear to have weaponry that operates on principles completely foreign to our technology. Commander Zextai studied the readings carefully. His military training had taught him to recognize threat patterns, and what he was seeing defied every tactical manual he'd ever studied. Those aren't plasma cannons or particle beam arrays. What are they? We don't know, Dr. Yoth admitted. Our best guess is some form of kinetic acceleration system, but the energy output suggests they could launch projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The potential for destruction is. He paused, his tentacles curling inward, considerable. This changes everything, Ambassador Krillnex said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. For 300 years, we've maintained galactic peace by ensuring that no single species possessed overwhelming technological advantages. We've carefully managed the integration of new civilizations to prevent exactly this scenario. What scenario? Asked Representative Mala, though her crystalline form was already beginning to dim with worry. The arrival of a species that could upset the entire balance of power in the galaxy, Commander Zextai replied grimly. A species that plays by rules we don't understand, with capabilities we can't match. The viewing screen chimed softly, indicating an incoming priority transmission. Dr. Yoth accepted the signal, and the face of Admiral Tekvar appeared, the elderly hegemony commander looking more tired than Zextai had ever seen him. Council representatives, Admiral Tekvar began without preamble, I'm transmitting from the border patrol vessel Resilience. We've had direct visual contact with the human fleet. How many ships did you count? Commander Zextai asked immediately. 47 combat vessels, ranging from what appear to be escort frigates to massive battleships that dwarf our largest dreadnoughts. But that's not why I'm calling. Admiral Tekvar's expression grew even more serious. They've been scanning us. Scanning? Dr. Yatha's tentacles began to writhe with agitation. Our ships are supposed to be undetectable at this range. Apparently not to human sensors. They've mapped every ship in my patrol group, cataloged our weapon systems, and somehow determined our crew complements. They know exactly what we're capable of, down to the smallest detail. The implications hit the observation deck like a physical blow. Ambassador Krillnex's mandibles stopped clicking entirely, a sign of extreme distress in her species. Admiral, Commander Zextai said carefully, did they attempt to communicate with you? They did. Brief transmission, very polite. They identified themselves, stated their peaceful intentions, and then. Admiral Tekvar paused, looking uncomfortable. What? They warned us that our weapon systems were targeting their vessels and suggested we stand down to avoid any unfortunate misunderstandings. Were you targeting them? Dr. Yoth asked. Not intentionally. Our ships automatically track potential threats, but we weren't preparing to fire. Somehow, they detected targeting solutions we hadn't even finalized yet. It's as if they can read our tactical intentions before we've fully formed them. Representative Mbala's crystalline form pulsed with agitated light patterns. Commander Zextai, what are we dealing with here? Before anyone could respond, the station's communication array activated, broadcasting a signal that filled the observation deck with a clear, confident human voice. Galactic Council Station, this is Captain Sarah Chen aboard the United Earthship Prometheus. We are requesting permission to dock and begin formal diplomatic proceedings. We come in peace, seeking friendship and mutual cooperation among the stars. The transmission paused, then continued with a subtle but unmistakable edge. We understand that our arrival may be unexpected. We chose not to participate in your trial of ascension because humanity has always believed that actions speak louder than words. We're here not to prove ourselves worthy of joining your community, but to demonstrate that we're ready to contribute to it as equals. Another pause, and when Captain Chen's voice returned, it carried a warmth that somehow made her next words even more unsettling. We've brought gifts from Earth: art, music, literature, and technological innovations that we hope will benefit all species in the Council. We've also brought defensive capabilities sufficient to ensure that our diplomatic mission proceeds without interference. We trust that won't be necessary, but we've learned that hope for the best requires preparation for the worst." The transmission ended, leaving the observation deck in stunned silence. Commander Zextai realized that everything was about to change. For centuries, the Galactic Council had operated under the assumption that they represented the pinnacle of interstellar civilization. They had grown comfortable in their role as the arbiters of galactic advancement, the gatekeepers who determined which species were ready for the stars. But the humans had just announced their arrival not as supplicants seeking approval, but as equals demanding recognition. They had bypassed every control mechanism the Council had established, developed technologies that should have been impossible, and approached the galaxy's seat of power with enough military force to pose a genuine threat. "What do we do?" whispered Lieutenant Cass, expressing what everyone was thinking. Commander Zextai looked around the observation deck at the assembled representatives of 12 civilizations, each one grappling with the same realization. The age of the Galactic Council's unchallenged authority was ending, and humanity's arrival would either usher in a new era of cooperation or spark the first interstellar war in 3 centuries. "We do what we've always done," he said finally, though his voice lacked conviction. "We follow protocol and hope for the best." But, as he stared at the tactical display showing 47 human warships approaching their supposedly impregnable station, Commander Zextai couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's definition of the best might be very different from their own. In the depths of space, the UES Prometheus continued its steady approach, its crew unaware that their very arrival had already begun reshaping the political landscape of the galaxy. Behind them, hidden in the darkness between stars, 46 additional vessels maintained perfect formation, their crews waiting for orders that everyone hoped would never come. The humans had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. Captain Sarah Chen stepped through the airlock of the UES Prometheus and into what could only be described as organized chaos. The docking bay of Galactic Council Station Prime buzzed with activity as dozens of different species worked frantically to accommodate her arrival. She watched with interest as a group of insectoid beings directed floating platforms loaded with scanning equipment, while nearby, crystalline entities communicated through rapid patterns of colored light. "Quite a welcome committee," commented Dr. James Wright, her chief science officer, as he emerged behind her. The elderly physicist's eyes sparkled with excitement behind his wire-rimmed glasses. "I count at least 8 different species just in this bay." 9, corrected Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos, the Prometheus's tactical officer, her hand resting casually near her sidearm. "There's a delegation of what appear to be energy beings maintaining position near the upper observation deck." Sarah nodded, making mental notes of everything she observed. 3 months of preparation and intelligence gathering had given humanity a basic understanding of Galactic Council species, but seeing them in person was entirely different. The diversity was staggering, yet she noticed something else, something that hadn't been in any of their briefings. Fear. Every species present was trying to hide it, but Sarah had spent 15 years in the United Earth Navy learning to read people under pressure. The way the insectoid beings kept their distance, the defensive clustering of the crystalline delegates, the nervous energy patterns from the floating entities, all of it screamed caution bordering on terror. A delegation approached led by a tall, blue-skinned humanoid whose breathing apparatus marked him as the Valkyrian she'd been told to expect. His formal uniform was pristine, but Sarah noticed the slight tremor in his hands as he activated his translation device. "Captain Chen," Commander Zextai said, his voice artificially steady through the translator. "Welcome to Galactic Council Station Prime. I am Commander Zextai of the Valkyrian Republic, currently serving as the Council's military liaison." "Commander Zextai," Sarah replied with a respectful nod. "Thank you for accommodating our unscheduled arrival. I hope we haven't caused too much disruption to your normal operations." "Unscheduled," repeated the insectoid being beside him, her mandibles clicking rapidly. "Ambassador Krillnex of the Hegemony. Your arrival has been notable, Captain. In 300 years, no species has ever approached the Council without first completing the Trial of Ascension." Sarah smiled, an expression that seemed to make several of the assembled delegates step backward. "Humanity has always preferred to learn by doing rather than by testing, Ambassador." We felt our actions would speak more clearly than any formal examination. Your actions have certainly spoken, muttered a tentacled being she recognized as Dr. Yoth, though his translation was barely audible. Perhaps we could continue this conversation in a more formal setting? Commander Zextai suggested, gesturing toward a corridor lined with what appeared to be security checkpoints. The Council has prepared chambers for diplomatic discussions. Of course, Sarah agreed, but then paused. Before we begin formal talks, however, I'd like to address what I suspect is the primary concern of everyone present. The assembled delegates exchanged glances, and Sarah could practically feel the tension ratcheting upward. Our fleet, she continued calmly. You're wondering why we brought 47 warships to what should be a peaceful first contact. The thought had occurred to us, Ambassador Krillnek said, her mandibles snapping shut with audible force. Sarah gestured to Dr. Wright, who stepped forward carrying a small, innocuous-looking device. Immediately, every security scanner in the bay began chirping alarms, and Sarah noticed at least a dozen different weapons being discreetly aimed in their direction. This is a standard human data storage unit, Dr. Wright explained, holding up what looked like a simple metallic cube. It contains detailed technical specifications for every vessel in our fleet, including complete weapon schematics, defensive capabilities, and operational parameters. Dr. Yoth's tentacles curled in confusion. You're giving us your military secrets? We're demonstrating that we have nothing to hide, Sarah replied. Examine our ships, study our technology, understand exactly what we've brought to your station. Once you've done that, we can have an honest conversation about why we felt it was necessary. Commander Zextai accepted the device with obvious reluctance. Captain, this is highly irregular. In all our experiences with first contact protocols, your protocols assume that new species are seeking your approval to join the galactic community, Sarah interrupted gently. Humanity isn't here as supplicants, Commander. We're here as neighbors introducing ourselves. The distinction sent a ripple of reaction through the assembled delegates. Sarah watched as translation devices worked overtime to convey concepts that apparently didn't exist in several of the represented languages. Perhaps, Ambassador Krillnek said carefully, you could explain exactly what humanity hopes to achieve through these negotiations? Sarah smiled again, and this time she deliberately made it warmer, less predatory. We'd like to establish trade relationships, exchange cultural and scientific knowledge, and contribute to galactic peace and prosperity. What we don't want is to be told we're not ready for that participation based on tests designed by civilizations that developed under completely different circumstances. Every species must prove their worthiness, Dr. Yoth objected, his tentacles writhing with agitation. The trial of ascension ensures that new members possess the wisdom and restraint necessary for interstellar cooperation. Does it? Dr. Wright asked mildly. Or does it ensure that new members conform to existing power structures? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Sarah could see that several of the delegates were genuinely considering the implications, while others looked scandalized by the very suggestion. The trial has maintained galactic peace for 3 centuries, Commander Zextai said defensively. Has it maintained peace, or has it maintained stagnation? Sarah asked. When was the last time a new species brought genuinely revolutionary technology to the Council? When did someone last challenge existing scientific assumptions? When did anyone suggest that maybe there were better ways to organize interstellar relations? Stability requires, Ambassador Krillnek began. Stagnation, Dr. Wright finished. Captain, if I may? Sarah nodded, and her science officer stepped forward, producing another device from his equipment pack. This one was larger, roughly the size of a briefcase, and covered in indicators that pulsed with soft blue light. This is a portable version of our fold space generator, Dr. Wright announced, causing every scanner in the bay to go completely silent. Dr. Yoth, your preliminary scans were correct. Human FTL technology operates on principles that your current physics models say are impossible. Impossible, Dr. Yoth repeated weakly. Only if you assume that spacetime is fundamentally immutable, Dr. Wright replied cheerfully. We discovered that under specific conditions, space can be convinced to fold in on itself, dramatically reducing travel distances without technically exceeding light speed. Convinced? Commander Zextai's breathing apparatus hissed with what might have been laughter or hysteria. Spacetime responds to certain resonant frequencies the same way matter responds to sound waves, Dr. Wright explained, his enthusiasm evident despite the increasingly alarmed expressions of his audience. Apply the right harmonic patterns at the correct energy levels, and you can create temporary dimensional folds that allow near-instantaneous travel across vast distances. The energy requirements alone should make such a system impossible, Dr. Yoth protested. Our calculations suggest that folding space would require more power than most stars generate. Dr. Wright's grin widened. Only if you try to brute force the fold. We discovered that space wants to fold under the right conditions. Instead of fighting physics, we learn to work with it. Our entire generator operates on less power than your standard life support systems. Sarah watched the assembled delegates process this information and saw the moment when the full implications hit them. If humanity had indeed discovered a revolutionary approach to FTL travel using a fraction of the energy required by existing technologies, it meant that every assumption about interstellar logistics, warfare, and economics was potentially obsolete. This changes everything, whispered Representative Mbala, her crystalline form pulsing with agitated light patterns. Only if you wanted to, Sarah said calmly. We're not here to impose our technology on anyone. We're here to offer it freely, in the spirit of mutual cooperation and advancement. Freely? Ambassador Krillnex's mandibles had stopped moving entirely. You're offering to share technology that could revolutionize galactic transportation, for nothing? For friendship, Sarah corrected. For the opportunity to learn from your accumulated knowledge and experience. For the chance to contribute to something bigger than any single species could achieve alone. Dr. Wright activated his portable fold space generator, and reality seemed to hiccup around them. For just a moment, Sarah could see through the device to somewhere else entirely, a glimpse of Earth's blue skies and white clouds, impossibly present in the middle of an alien space station. The demonstration lasted only seconds, but its impact was immediate and undeniable. Several delegates stumbled backward, their various sensory organs struggling to process what they had witnessed. Others began rapid conversations in languages the translation matrix couldn't keep up with. Impossible, Dr. Yoth whispered, his tentacles trembling. The power fluctuations alone should have disrupted every system in this bay. That's the beauty of working with physics instead of against it, Dr. Wright replied, powering down the device. Fold space technology is surprisingly gentle. No exotic matter, no dimensional tears, no risk of creating black holes or temporal paradoxes. Commander Zextai was staring at his instrument readings with an expression of complete disbelief. Captain Chen, do you understand what you've just demonstrated? This technology could make our entire transportation infrastructure obsolete overnight. Only if you choose to adopt it, Sarah said. We're not here to disrupt your society, Commander. We're here to offer alternatives and let you decide what works best for your people. And if we refuse? Ambassador Krillnex asked quietly. Then, we'll respect your decision and look for other ways to contribute to galactic civilization, Sarah replied without hesitation. We're not conquerors, Ambassador. We're neighbors trying to introduce ourselves properly. The docking bay had grown completely silent except for the soft humming of various life support systems. Sarah could see the delegates struggling to process not just the technological demonstration, but the entire paradigm shift that humanity represented. You're serious, Commander Zextai said finally. You actually intend to simply share this technology. Commander, in the past century, humanity has faced extinction-level threats 3 times. Each time, we survived because someone was willing to share knowledge, technology, or resources without expecting anything in return except the chance to build a better future together. Sarah's voice carried quiet conviction. That's the only way intelligent species survive in a dangerous universe, by helping each other become stronger. Dr. Yatha's tentacles had stopped trembling, and, when he spoke, his voice carried a note of genuine wonder. Captain, your species has achieved technological breakthroughs that our greatest scientists believed were impossible. You've brought that knowledge here freely, without coercion or demand for compensation. You've demonstrated capabilities that could threaten our very existence, and you've done it with complete transparency. He paused, then continued more softly. Why should we trust you? Sarah smiled, and, for the first time since her arrival, it seemed to calm rather than alarm her audience. Because, Dr. Yoth, trust is the only currency that actually matters between species that are going to share the galaxy for the next few million years. You can build all the safeguards and protocols you want, but, ultimately, civilizations either learn to trust each other or they destroy each other. We're hoping for the first option. Commander Zextai looked around at his fellow delegates, seeing his own thoughts reflected in their varied expressions. Humanity had arrived not as expected supplicants or feared conquerors, but as something entirely unprecedented, equals who genuinely seemed to want nothing more than the opportunity to contribute to galactic civilization. Captain Shan, he said formally, the Galactic Council will need time to fully evaluate your presentation. In the meantime, we'd be honored to provide you and your crew with full diplomatic accommodations. Thank you, Commander. My crew and I look forward to learning more about your remarkable civilization. Sarah paused, then added with a slight grin, just remember, we didn't come all this way to prove we belong here. We came to show you that we're ready to help build something better together. As the delegates began to disperse, each lost in their own thoughts about the implications of humanity's arrival, none of them noticed the small device that Dr. Wright had quietly placed near one of the station's main power conduits. It would take several hours for the station's engineers to discover that their energy efficiency had improved by 30%, and several more to realize that the humans had given them a gift that would transform their understanding of power generation. Humanity, it seemed, was determined to prove their peaceful intentions through actions rather than words. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready for neighbors who insisted on being helpful. 6 months after first contact, Commander Zextai found himself staring at reports that defied every assumption he'd held about interstellar politics. The conference table in the Council's primary chambers was covered with data tablets, each one documenting another impossible development in what historians were already calling the human revolution. The hegemony's agricultural yields have increased by 40%, announced Ambassador Krillnex, her mandibles clicking in what Zextai had learned was her species' expression of amazed satisfaction. The humans' hydroponic enhancement techniques have eliminated food scarcity on 17 of our worlds. The Silicon Consortium reports similar improvements in industrial efficiency, added Representative Mala, her crystalline form pulsing with warm golden light. Human metallurgy innovations have reduced manufacturing costs across all our production facilities. Dr. Yoth, who had barely left his laboratory since the humans' arrival, looked up from his latest research tablet. The fold space technology continues to exceed all projections. We've successfully tested it on 43 different vessel configurations, and the energy efficiency gains are consistent across all trials. Zextai nodded, trying to maintain his composure despite the magnitude of what he was hearing. In 6 months, humanity had accomplished what the Galactic Council had been unable to achieve in 3 centuries: genuine technological revolution that benefited every member species simultaneously. What about security concerns? He asked, though he already suspected what the answer would be. Human fleet dispositions remain exactly as promised, reported Admiral Tekvar via holographic projection from his command ship. 46 vessels maintaining defensive positions at the edge of our space, 1 diplomatic vessel docked at our station. No aggressive movements, no territorial claims, no attempts to establish military bases. Their transparency continues to be unsettling, admitted Councillor Vex Pri of the neutral territories, her energy form flickering with uncertainty. They've provided us with complete technical specifications for every system they've introduced, including detailed analyses of potential risks and countermeasures. Zextai understood her discomfort. For species accustomed to carefully guarded secrets and gradual technological exchange, humanity's complete openness was profoundly disorienting. They had shared not just their successes, but their failures, their concerns, and their recommendations for avoiding the mistakes they'd made during their own development. The cultural exchange programs are proceeding beyond all expectations, reported Dr. Lithia, the Council's chief anthropologist, her feathered crest bristling with excitement. Human art, music, and literature have been received with enthusiasm by all member species. More importantly, they've demonstrated genuine interest in learning from our cultures rather than simply sharing their own. Any signs of cultural contamination or ideological subversion? Asked Councillor Vex Pri. None whatsoever, Dr. Lithia replied firmly. If anything, human cultural practices seem designed to enhance diversity rather than promote uniformity. They've adapted their own traditions to incorporate elements from each species they've encountered, creating unique fusion experiences that celebrate differences rather than eliminating them. Zextai reached for another data tablet, this one containing economic projections that made his breathing apparatus wheeze with disbelief. Trade volume between council members has increased by 300% since the humans arrived. Economic disputes have decreased by 85%. The Fold Space Transportation Network has effectively eliminated resource scarcity throughout council space, Ambassador Krillnex explained. When any species can deliver goods anywhere in the galaxy within days rather than years, traditional competition for resources becomes pointless. That's what concerns me, Councillor Vexpri said, her energy form shifting to darker hues. This level of integration and interdependence is unprecedented. What happens if humanity decides to withdraw their cooperation? Dr. Yoth looked up from his research with an expression of scientific fascination. I've been studying that question for months, and I believe I understand why it's not a relevant concern. Human technology isn't designed for dependency, it's designed for adaptation and independence. Explain, Zextai requested. Every system they've introduced comes with complete technical documentation and training programs. They're not creating dependence on human expertise, they're ensuring that every species can master these technologies independently. Dr. Yatha's tentacles writhed with excitement. It's as if they actively want to make themselves unnecessary. Which brings us to the central question, Ambassador Krillnex said quietly. What do the humans actually want from us? The conference chamber fell silent as each delegate contemplated a puzzle that had confounded them for months. Humanity had provided revolutionary technology, solved resource distribution problems, enhanced cultural exchange, and strengthened economic cooperation throughout the galaxy. In return, they had asked for nothing except the opportunity to continue contributing. Perhaps we should ask them directly, suggested Representative Mala. As if summoned by her words, the chamber's communication system activated, displaying the familiar face of Captain Sarah Chen. Her appearance had become a regular feature of council meetings, though her presence never failed to generate a complex mixture of gratitude and unease among the delegates. Council members, Captain Chen said with her characteristic warm smile, I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Not at all, Captain, Zextai replied, gesturing for her to continue. We were actually discussing your people's remarkable contributions to galactic civilization. I'm glad to hear that things are working out well. Actually, I'm calling to inform you that we'll be making some changes to our presence in council space. Every delegate immediately tensed. This was what they had been dreading, the moment when humanity would reveal their true agenda. We're withdrawing 30 of our fleet vessels from the border patrol positions, Captain Chen continued, apparently oblivious to the alarm her words had triggered. Our analysis suggests that the enhanced transportation and communication networks have reduced security threats to the point where such a large military presence is unnecessary. You're reducing your military presence? Councillor Vexpri asked, her energy form flickering with confusion. Of course. The whole point of establishing security is to eventually make that security unnecessary through cooperation and mutual prosperity. Captain Chen paused, then smiled more broadly. We're keeping 17 ships in the area to assist with Fold Space Network maintenance and emergency response, but the rest will be returning to Earth to help with our own infrastructure development. Ambassador Krillnex's mandibles clicked rapidly. Captain, forgive me for asking directly, but what does humanity hope to gain from continued cooperation with the Council? Captain Chen's expression shifted to one of genuine puzzlement. Ambassador, we're gaining it right now. Our scientists are learning from your accumulated knowledge. Our artists are being inspired by your cultures. Our engineers are solving problems by adapting your techniques to our technology. She paused, then continued with obvious enthusiasm. Did you know that hegemony biotechnology has helped us solve food distribution problems on 12 of our colony worlds? Silicon consortium manufacturing techniques have improved our construction efficiency by 60%. And Dr. Yatha's theoretical work on quantum mechanics has opened entirely new avenues of research for our physicists. But these are all intangible benefits, Councillor Vexpri protested.
Where is your territorial expansion? Your resource extraction? Your establishment of political dominance?
Captain Chen stared at the energy being for several seconds before bursting into laughter.
Counselor, why would we want any of those things? Territorial expansion just means more infrastructure to maintain. Resource extraction creates scarcity and conflict.
Political dominance means taking responsibility for other people's problems. She shook her head, still chuckling. We learned centuries ago that the most sustainable form of wealth is knowledge, and the most effective form of security is having neighbors who trust you.
Dr. Yatha's tentacles had begun to vibrate with what his species considered deep contemplation. Captain, are you saying that humanity's entire strategy for galactic interaction is based on making yourselves useful rather than powerful?
Dr. Yath, power is temporary and expensive to maintain. Usefulness is permanent and pays for itself. Captain Chen's voice carried quiet conviction. A powerful species has to constantly defend their position. A useful species gets invited to participate in everyone else's successes. The implications of her words settled over the conference chamber like a revelation. For millennia, galactic politics had operated on assumptions of competition, territorial control, and zero-sum resource management.
Humanity was demonstrating an entirely different approach, one based on mutual enhancement rather than dominance.
There is one thing we'd like to request from the Council, Captain Chen continued, bringing everyone's attention back to the present.
Here it comes, thought Sextai. The real agenda. We'd like permission to establish a permanent research station in Council space.
Not for military purposes or resource extraction, but as a collaborative facility where scientists from all member species can work together on projects that benefit everyone. A research station, Ambassador Krillnex repeated slowly. Staffed by volunteers from every species, funded collectively, with all discoveries shared freely among all participants, Captain Chen explained. We've learned that the most amazing breakthroughs happen when different perspectives work together on the same problems. Representative Mbala's crystalline form pulsed with excited light patterns. This research station, would it focus on specific areas of study? Whatever interests the participants most, Captain Chan replied. Medical research, engineering innovations, cultural studies, artistic collaborations, the point is to create a space where curiosity can flourish without political constraints. Dr. Yath was practically vibrating with enthusiasm. Captain, this could revolutionize how we approach scientific advancement. Instead of each species working in isolation, we could achieve breakthroughs that none of us could manage alone, Captain Chen finished. Exactly. Counselor Vexbri's energy form had shifted to brighter, more stable patterns. And humanity would contribute this facility without expecting anything in return? We'd expect exactly what we've been receiving, the opportunity to learn and grow alongside civilizations that share our curiosity about the universe. Captain Chen's smile was radiant. Counselor, the universe is vast and full of mysteries. Working together, we might actually solve a few of them. Commander Zextai looked around the conference table at his fellow delegates, seeing his own thoughts reflected in their varied expressions. 6 months ago, they had been terrified of humanity's arrival and the changes it might bring. Now, they were beginning to understand that those changes were exactly what galactic civilization had been waiting for. Captain Chen, he said formally, the Galactic Council will be honored to approve your research station proposal. Wonderful. Construction begins next month. Oh, and we're planning to celebrate the station's completion with the first ever interspecies arts festival. We thought it might be nice to showcase how beautiful the galaxy becomes when everyone contributes their unique talents. After the communication ended, the conference chamber remained quiet for several minutes as each delegate processed what they had just experienced. 6 months ago, we were afraid they would conquer us, Ambassador Krillnex said finally. Instead, they've conquered our limitations. Dr. Yoff looked up from his research tablets with an expression of scientific wonder. They haven't just given us new technology, they've given us a new way of thinking about cooperation itself. The question now, Representative Mbala said, her form glowing with warm light, is whether we're ready to live up to the example they've set. Commander Zextai stood and walked to the observation deck's massive viewport, looking out at the stars that suddenly seemed full of infinite possibility. Somewhere out there, 17 human ships maintained their quiet vigil, protecting not just Council space but the dream of what interstellar civilization could become. They said it couldn't be done, he murmured to himself, remembering humanity's defiant approach to galactic politics. They said that species couldn't cooperate without competition, couldn't share without exploitation, couldn't trust without verification. Behind him, the other delegates were already beginning to plan their contributions to the new research station, their voices filled with excitement and possibility. But humanity proved them wrong, Zextai continued, watching as a human transport vessel approached the station, its cargo bay no doubt filled with another impossible innovation designed to make life better for everyone. They proved that the galaxy was big enough for neighbors instead of competitors, rich enough for cooperation instead of conquest. As the transport docked and began unloading, what his sensors indicated was some form of advanced medical equipment given freely. As always, Commander Zextai found himself smiling beneath his breathing apparatus. The age of the Galactic Council's cautious isolation was ending, replaced by something unprecedented in the galaxy's history, a civilization built on the radical belief that everyone could win together. Humanity had indeed arrived with a deathly quiet fall, the silence of assumptions crashing down and the whisper of a new age being born. And, in that silence, the galaxy was finally learning to hear the music of true cooperation. The future, it seemed, was going to be far more interesting than anyone had dared to imagine.